Hello, good morning everybody and welcome to the SENDIASS Workshop today. This month's topic is phased transfers and what are your options if your child doesn't get the placement you wanted. We're going to have some question time at the end as well, I'm sure, and if you want to put a question into the chat box, it comes to myself and Tim, who is representing here for us. And just full transparency, this session will be recorded and available on our YouTube channel as well. Thank you, Tim. I'll let you carry the floor.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to try and share my screen. If says host disabled participants screen sharing. What's that mean?
I've just made you host, Tim.
Yeah, you have, haven't you? Yeah, let's try that then. I just need to try and I'm rubbish at this. I'm ever so sorry. Oops, let's have a look and try that. All right.
That's great. We can see it.
You can see it. I just need to make sure it's oops. Sorry, just bear with me. You haven't got the world's greatest at things like this. From the beginning. Does that work? Nope. You can see all the bits around the edge, can't you?
Yes.
Right. Okay, I'll just carry on like that if that's okay.
We can still read it.
Yeah, so I'm not doing very well, so I apologise. Hi everybody, my name is Tim Pattinson. I'm one of the Hampshire SENDIASS support workers. So yeah, I just wanted to share a few slides with you, but I think what we'll probably find useful later on is the questions and sort of answering, hopefully trying to answer some of what your queries around this. It's Emma, isn't it? Yeah. So as Emma mentioned, I've come to talk about the phase transfers, particularly what happens if you're not happy with the school named in section I of your child's EHC plan. What happens if there's no named placement, how you might want to lodge an appeal, talk a little bit about mediation, whether you need to go to the mediation service or not, what happens if the EHC process isn't complete, and then a little bit more about the transition at the end, just so that for anyone who's come on about transition, the actual process of transition from the school that your child's in at the moment to the new setting, then we can talk about that as well. Okay. So hopefully that'll change it. Okay, so I'm sure most of you are, if you've come onto this workshop, that you're in the position where you've received an amended final plan or a final plan that's just been produced by the local authority. And that will have been sent to you. You probably received an email from the local authority and then been able to view it on the hub. You should also have got the local authority decision letter. Again, you would find this on the hub. Many parents come to us and they aren't aware of that actual letter, but that is the letter that states that the plan has either been amended or it is a new plan, and that the decision of the local authority is to keep the placement as it is, or to it would sort of say what the placement would be, and it also on that letter it then gives you your right to appeal should you need it. So it's definitely worth, if you don't know where that letter is, to find that at this point. Okay. So when it provides you with a right to appeal, the options are that you would have, well, it tells you that you have the right to appeal, which is for 2 months from the date of the letter. So the date on the letter will be also the date on your child's EHC plan. Okay. So you've received your letter, you've received your plan, you've looked at section I, and section I is placement. Excuse me. Section I is placement, and it will say there the place that your child will be going to from September 2023. For some of you, that might be good, that you know where they're going, or in many cases, you will find that that is not the school that you had hoped for. And in that case, you then have the right to appeal. If you are only wanting to appeal placement, and so if I just go through the 3 sections of a plan that you can appeal for, so the sections that you can appeal are B, section B, which is the where it identifies what your child's special educational needs are, section F, which are the provisions to meet those needs, and section I, which is placement. If you are only going to appeal section I, which is placement, then you don't need to contact mediation. You don't need a mediation certificate to do that. However, it's really good to go through what is said in sections B and F. So special educational needs that have been identified and section F provision. You need to go through those and make sure that it is fully robust, that it has everything in there that says what your child's needs are. And I know this is difficult, and we go through this quite a lot with parents. Excuse me. That you need to make sure that the plan states all the information. I need to admit someone just that so that the plan reads fully, that you have all the information about your child. You know them best, so you would be able to read through and you'd recognize if there was anything that was missing. So in order to appeal to the Courts and Tribunal Service for B, F and I, you would need to contact the mediation service, which in Hampshire is Global Mediation, and you'll find their information on that decision letter, which I've already mentioned a little bit earlier. So you need to contact mediation service. You can do that by email. I think there's a phone number on there, and they will ask you to fill a form in stating why you want to mediation or a mediation certificate, and then you would have a discussion with them. So the choice there is that you can ask for a mediation meeting, or you can talk through and say, I don't want to actually go to a mediation meeting, I just want to go straight to appeal, in which case they will issue you with a mediation certificate. But you can't appeal to the Courts and Tribunal Service for sections B and F. Again, special educational needs identified and the provision without having a mediation certificate. And you have to do all of this within your 2-month window of your right to appeal. I can explain a bit more if you feel a bit confused by what I've just told you. Okay, I just want to remind you about placements, that as a parent, or if you're a young person listening to this, that you have a right to request any of the following types of school or college. So that would be a maintained school or nursery, mainstream or special, an academy, again, mainstream or special, an institution in a further education sector, a non-maintained special school, or a Section 41 school. The only reasons a local authority can refuse to request your request is if they're one of the three underneath, which is a setting unsuitable for the age, ability, aptitude, or special educational needs of the child or young person. So in that case, that would be, say, that you had requested an SEMH school, perhaps, where your child would need a school that catered for children with special, severe learning difficulties or something. So it wouldn't be a good match. So they may say that, or you requested a secondary school and they need a primary school. I mean, that's a bit obvious, but basically it would have to be one of those things that they would say that wasn't an appropriate place for them to go. And the next two are particularly ones that I see a lot on appeal forms that come through back from the local authority. So one is, again, these are reasons why they may refuse a placement. So the attendance of your child would be incompatible with the provision of the efficient education of others. So basically what they're saying is that by putting your child into a school, in addition to all the others that are already in that school, that it would mean that there would be an effect on the education of other people. The last one is that the attendance of your child would be incompatible with the efficient use of resources. So basically they're saying to put a child in a particular school, it's going to cost probably more than they want to pay. But these are all things that you can argue if you do go to appeal. So don't be put off by them. They're a bit scary to look at and to read, but actually, if you're wanting to appeal, then yeah, there's ways to do that. There are some situations where there's no placement named, or it possibly names a type of school rather than a particular school. So if there's no placement named, there's one situation where that might be if you are have requested a what they call in a UTIS package of support. So that's education other than at school. If that were the case, then there wouldn't be a school named in section I at all, but there would be provisions in section F for the provisions that they would put in place in education other than at school package of support. But you'd probably be aware of that before, hopefully before the plan had been issued. I haven't seen many with a type of school named in section I. These usually come as a result of an appeal, but sometimes if they haven't identified a particular school, they may name the type, the sort of school that it is. But you need to go through the plan to make sure that you're aware of what they're actually saying in section I. So just to recap, so if you're lodging an appeal, you would need to check whether you need to have a mediation certificate or not. As I said, if you're just challenging the placement itself, then you don't need a mediation certificate to go on to the lodging your appeal with the Courts and Tribunal Service. To do that, you would use a SEND 35 form. It's quite a clear form. It sort of asks you for your reasons for appeal, why you want to appeal, what you disagree with in terms of what the local authority have stated, and then it asks for certain documents. Again, you would need to submit your local authority decision letter. So that letter that says, dear parent, this is our decision, this is your right to appeal. It has to have, and a decision letter has to have a paragraph on there that gives you your right to appeal. It has to have on there that it explains what mediation is and how to get hold of the mediation service, and it has to have on there that you are able to contact Hampshire SENDIASS. Without those, that they would say that that letter was not compliant. So it's really important that, and I have seen letters in the past that have come out from the local authority where some of that information has been missing. And that hasn't gone down particularly well with the Courts and Tribunal Service. So on that form, you explain what your reasons are for appeal, and then you provide them with a copy of the final plan that you've received, all of the appendices, so that's all the reports that were written and contributed to the EHC plan itself, your local authority decision letter, a mediation certificate if you have one, and then any evidence that you have to support your appeal. If, however, you are happy with placement in section I, or it gets resolved at an appeal, then the important thing is to make sure that there's a transition process in place, because as you will all know, that changing schools for a child with SEND is quite a major thing. It's a major thing for us as parents, isn't it, a lot of the time, but for the children themselves or the young people themselves, you know, moving a setting from one to another where they've been familiar and perhaps felt comfortable is quite a quite a challenge for them all. So it's really making sure that you talk with the SENCO from the current school, talk to the SENCO from the new school. Hopefully they would be meeting together with yourselves and putting some kind of plan together so that your child's going to get the maximum amount of support that they should have between moving from one setting to another. And it could be that they need additional visits. All children have some kind of transition between one and another school, organised by the schools between them, but we know that our children need more time, sometimes more visits. Maybe they need to go around when there's no one else in the school. Maybe they need to go around and take photographs so that you've got a sort of photo book of the new setting. There's lots of different ways that you can help them with their transition, but it should be the schools working together to make sure that they've got all the information that they need, and that you want them to know. That's really important. That's good for you to have those conversations. You know, what information is there that you want the school to know that perhaps the primary school or the school to college won't tell, won't say. So make sure you have those conversations. So yes, get an agreement about what transition looks like, and also, what's going to be happening, when it is going to happen, and how your child will be introduced to the school. Okay, and just finally, I've just put in here the contact details for Hampshire SENDIASS. We're available Monday to Friday. You can contact us on the email, which is info@Hampshire SENDIASS, or through our website. You can fill out one of our contact forms on the website, or you can phone us, and if you need to leave a message, we get back to you within a couple of days. Okay, do you want me to leave that up?
Thank you. Yes, please, Tim. Thank you.
That was a bit of a whirlwind, but I'm sure probably, you know, when we talk about the questions that we've got, people ask the questions, that I'll be able to explain more. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's always meeting the questions, definitely. Would you be able
Yeah.
to pop me back as host again, and I can manage the chat room while you're answering
How do I do
questions?
that?
So if you find me, there's 3 little dots next to the button mute. On the 3
Oh, yeah.
little dots,
Yeah.
should say
Make host. Is that it?
host.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm back. There we
You're
are.
back.
Hello.
Well done.
Thank you so much, Tim. So a couple of pre-questions came through,
Yeah.
and then if anybody else would like to add some in the chat box, or feel free to pop your hand up and we will ask. I will come to you in due course. Okay. So the first question is, my son hasn't been allocated any of our choices. I would like to know the following. If I went to tribunal, do I need to name one other school, or can I give 2, which I would accept either?
Okay. Yeah, I saw that one before I started. Excuse me. So if you go to a tribunal, if you have an appeal that's accepted by the Courts and Tribunal Service, when you do get to an appeal hearing, the judge will probably want to know what placement you are asking for. They can only really make a decision on one placement, but that doesn't mean to say that in the time between when you lodge the appeal and the appeal hearing date itself, that you couldn't have let the local authority know that you've got a choice of a couple of schools, basically. But when it comes to the actual hearing, and I've been in situations where a parent has throughout the hearing almost changed their mind about schools. So you have to sort of say, well, yes, I want this one over this one. And then you have to give the reasons as to why. And a lot of your evidence that you will produce will be around why that particular school is the right school for your child. I hope that answers that question.
Thank you. If one of those schools has said they need a primary need for medical or physical, can we go for that? As within our LA, and primary need is SLD. He does have medical needs, but not primary needs.
I think with that one, so could you just go through that again and just let me get clear in my mind what you're asking?
If one of those schools has said they need a primary need for medical or physical.
Yeah. Okay, so that
so he doesn't have medical or physical as his primary need. He does have medical needs, but it's not his primary need.
Yeah, so I would say that what you need to do, I mentioned this a little bit, is about making sure that the sections of the plan have all the information in it. Okay, so when you go to an appeal, the judge and the panel members will want to know and want to hear from either through the evidence that's provided before the appeal hearing itself or on the day, would be why you want that particular school and how your child's needs fit with that particular school. So you need to ensure that every need is identified in section B, and that in section F, everything that needs to be put in place is there. So if you've got reports, I don't know, that say, so I think we're acknowledging that this child has some health needs. You need to identify how that particular school will meet those needs and why that school is more preferable than another, really. I don't know if that really answers it or not, but it's
Thank you, Tim. Yeah. So the reports used for the phase transfer are over 5 years old. There's 2 people came up with this question.
Yeah, I see.
How do I get the LA to reassess my child with an educational psychologist if they're old reports?
I mean, 5 years are well out of date. and a judge would probably, again, if you were in an appeal situation, they would want the information to be as up to date as possible. You can ask the local authority to reassess. They may not agree to do that. They may, but they may not. If you're in an appeal situation, you can ask the court to make that decision, or you can suggest it, and then the judge would sort of say, well, local authority, what do you think to that? Basically, the representative from the local authority, which is often a solicitor, but don't be put off by that. But yes, so you can get, sometimes the courts will, quite frequently actually, they will order or request a new assessment to be done. It will delay the actual decision of the court, and they will have to probably adjourn a hearing and then set a new date. But if you can request it from the local authority and it can be done before the hearing, that would be great. But quite often these things don't happen as smoothly as you'd like them to. But they can be ordered by the court, yeah, and it's really useful to have up-to-date information.
Thank you. And if they got a private EP report, could it be refusal to use that report if it was private?
No, I don't think so. I think they can accept private EP reports. They do like to have a local authority one to give that perspective as well. Sometimes it might be that a local authority one would just have to have an overview of the private one, but they should accept. I mean, they're seen as a profession in a way, aren't they? So it's not just about it has to be a local authority one.
Could I just do an add-in on there? If you do go for a private educational psychologist, please make sure they're tribunal trained, that there's some that specifically have training where they can represent at tribunals. It would benefit you greatly to make sure.
Yeah, and actually you could ask them to be a witness at the tribunal.
Yeah, don't want anyone to waste any money.
Do that as well.
Yes. You do.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to sort of change this one about. Okay, so LA Special School have said they can meet need. The parent carer is aware potentially that they never say they cannot meet need. Is the rumour mill around that particular one, unless there is high medical needs. The building is old, narrow corridors, lots of stairs, loud and busy. How can I argue against a school that's saying they can meet need when I know the environment doesn't meet the basic needs of the child?
Well, you'd have to show why that building doesn't fit with what your child's needs are. You'd have to really be very clear about the reasons why that is, and have you got any evidence? Have you got perhaps a sensory processing assessment that identifies what the needs are of your child around things like you mentioned
loud and busy
noises? Yeah. So the environmental factors, sensory needs that might be relating to those sort of echoey noises or whatever it is, really. But it's having evidence is crucial, and that can come from all different places, from different reports that you might have, or experiences that your child has had, and that you can write about.
Yeah, thank you. There is an LA school that would be ideal. However, their admission statement says primary medical need. My child's needs are PMLD, ASD, ARFID, double incontinence, so they refused him. Should I name this school in appeal, or would I be better off making it an out of LA special school who can meet need but have no spaces?
I think in that case, the judge would want to hone down on what constitutes a primary medical need, really, because to me there's quite a few in there that are quite pertinent. Yeah, so again, it's a difficult one. We can suggest that you find out what they mean by, you can do that as well, what they mean by primary medical need. What, do they have a list? What's on that?
What is it they're not quite able to meet?
Yeah,
Why
yeah,
and why?
why exactly? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. If HCC have named a school which they know can't meet needs and have done this to meet the statutory guidelines to finalise the plan, do I still need to appeal as normal, or can we wait until the school we want and that can meet needs comes back after their panel meeting? They are meeting on the 23rd of March to discuss.
I would use your right to appeal. Think carefully about that, because if you, yes, it depends on when you got your decision letter and the final plan as to when your 2 months of being able to appeal, the window of appeal is. What you could find though is that the panel meeting happens on that date in March, and then the decision still isn't to place your child in the placement that you wanted. The thing with an appeal is that once you've lodged an appeal and it's been accepted, you can always withdraw it. You can come to an agreement with the local authority, and a consent order can be put in place. And it's like, I always see it as a sort of backup plan, really. There is a bit of work to do when lodging an appeal, and SENDIASS are there to help you, talk you through that if you want us to. We're more than happy to do that, and advise you along the way. So you're not on your own. There's definitely someone there to sort of to answer any of the questions you might have. But I would think about the dates, and not leave yourself too little time if you decide you want to appeal.
And we live in HCC, but parental preference is under Portsmouth. Is everything the same when requesting a school out of area and appealing, or do Portsmouth have overall say? For example, if they say no to place, can we still appeal through Hampshire for it?
Well, Hampshire would still be your placing local authority. They have to liaise with Portsmouth, but I think what you're asking is, can you still appeal? And yes, you can. Is that right?
So can Portsmouth sort of close the doors on it all, or can she still trudge on with Hampshire or they? Sorry, I don't know if it's a he, she, they. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, they would still be able to appeal. I mean, the Hampshire borders lots of local authorities. I think there's 9 different local authorities that Hampshire borders. So, there's going to be again, if it went to appeal, then the Portsmouth would probably have someone there from the school saying that they, whether they could or could not meet need. It would still have the same authority in a way. I think it's worth trying, really. I don't. Ultimately, it would be a decision of a court if it wasn't agreed between the local authorities themselves.
So a few questions in the chat box. So question 1, to clarify, does the mediation need to complete within the 2 months or just start within the 2 months?
The mediation meeting, so if you have requested a mediation meeting, it usually has to happen within the 2 months. If it happens right on the end of the 2 months, then you have a month from the date of that mediation meeting with which to appeal. So basically your appeal window is extended. So if, I don't know, say the 29th of March was the last date that you have with which you could appeal to the Courts and Tribunal Service, but your mediation meeting took place on that day or the day before, then you would then have till the 28th or 29th of April with which to appeal.
Right. Question 2. Can you speak to the timeline for Year R places? We've just had our EHCP come back with a mainstream placement. However, the caseworker has responded to multiple parents, not just us, indicating that they don't decide until April, which is outside the 2-month deadline for appeals, which seems counterintuitive.
I don't think I've ever heard of that.
April's for general admissions. It's not for EHCP. EHCP
Yeah,
starts now.
If it's yeah. So the date for phase transfers for anything but changes, movement between secondary and further education is the 15th of February, and that's the statutory decision date that they have to follow. If they haven't got an EHCP, then it is the April date, I'm guessing. But I mean, yeah, I wouldn't say that they have to. I think you might want to check with the caseworker or possibly caseworker manager. I don't know. Some caseworkers are quite new. They may not fully understand the system themselves, but it would be worth checking it out. I wouldn't go by their information, that particular information.
Thank you, Tim.
I'd have to check.
This is from multiple caseworkers.
Right.
Is a response to that one. Okay, that's interesting.
I'd have to check my information. I don't know if I know the answer to that. I'm really sorry.
That's fine. To the person who put that question across, do you want to get in touch with SENDIASS directly to Tim, and we can chase up that particular answer? Because my understanding as well is the same as yours, Tim, that that's interesting. Okay. Question: if an EHCP is not complete in the early stages still, and any new possible settings transition from primary to secondary are not accessible, at what point can EOTUS be requested?
Sorry, can you read that one again?
Okay, I'm hoping I'm getting this right to this person. So I believe you're in the early stages of completing the EHCP. It's not yet complete. At what point can EOTUS be requested? So can it be requested during an EHCP whilst you're developing the EHCP, should we say? Or do you have to try education first?
No, I think you could. I mean, I would imagine that the local authority would want to go for a school setting first. But when you receive a draft plan, I don't know if they've received the draft plan yet. I mean, it may be that the local authority aren't particularly good at communicating with anyone before the draft plan appears. But there's no reason why you shouldn't be contacting them and having those conversations with them. But the draft plan they don't name a placement on draft plan anyway. You would be asking for an EOTUS at that point.
Okay, setting is not physically possible. Draft plan not received yet at assessment stage.
I don't know of many cases where they write an EOTUS in the plan, but depending on the information provided by the school setting or by yourselves around what your child's needs are, and again what the educational psychologist has suggested. Have they had an EP assessment? I don't know.
Does this person, do you feel comfortable coming on and talking without the camera to explain a little bit further? If not, don't worry.
No, don't worry.
Just keep
Or you
typing.
yeah.
So they've been out. Okay, so they've been out of education for 2 years.
Right.
The EP is reassessing.
Right. Okay. So the local authority will probably go by what the educational psychologist recommends. But again, you can, if you feel that the IOTIS is the most appropriate, that you can look at that. But I think you're probably waiting for the draft plan to come out. But there's no reason why you shouldn't be contacting the caseworker. The caseworker's details are on the hub. They're always down the left-hand side. If you've got, reason to contact them, and whether you filled in the sections within the actual on the hub itself where your views were recorded. I mean, it isn't just about the local authority educational psychologist report. It's contributions from everybody, isn't it, into the plan?
So thank you so much. Are there any other questions? So that person who's just had that question regarding IOTIS, there is some great support groups out there with regards to the information surrounding this. I'm just going to pop one in the chat box to you directly now. Okay. Pop your hand up if you've got any other questions.
Is that a hand from AM? I don't know.
Okay. And that. Oh, here we go. EHCP has named a mainstream secondary setting, which have said they cannot meet need. Parental preference is for a SEND school, has also said they cannot meet need. Can we lodge an appeal for the type of school? The caseworker will not tell us what other schools have been consulted with. We are trying to view more schools, but want to file before running out of time.
Well, I think the caseworker should be able to tell you what schools they've consulted with. I can't see why they wouldn't tell you that. It's not a secret. It's part of your right to know that, I would have said. I would advise, if at all possible, to avoid only naming a type of school. I did do an appeal recently where a type of school was named as a result of the appeal, but that can sometimes restrict the schools that are available, and it was with very much reluctance from the judge that was done. If you know the school that you want, even if they say they have no places, and you can show why that school is the right school, then I would probably go to appeal over that.
Hi Tim, just to give you a bit more background.
Yeah.
Thank you, James.
Question. Hi. Great webinar so far, by the way. Yeah, it's our parental preference. We were quite surprised that they said no, and they didn't get permission until quite late to assess our child, which is why we had a big delay. So I guess we put all our eggs in one basket and didn't have a backup school, which now we're viewing more schools that are further away, but it takes time to book the appointments and everything. And I'm just thinking, should I put the appeal in now? I've got one viewing this week, but I'm just worried if I put the appeal in and there's papers missing, that I should just get it filed now.
I would put your appeal in. I don't know if you know the timeline for appeals at the moment. It's quite a lengthy wait for the actual final hearing, and the hope would be that it would be resolved before you get to the final hearing. I don't know what the Courts and Tribunal Service plans are like at the moment. So some appeals are coming out for the beginning of next year.
Yeah, but they
Yeah,
have
but
gaps.
they've got gaps for those that are phase transfers, but it still means that it would be better for you, I think, to have an appeal lodged than to miss that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I know it feels like it's a lot of work to do, but you know, if you're and I think also I don't know if we're still recording this or not, but we are. It focuses the mind of the local authority if they, you know, into finding a solution to this. Really,
it's frustrating that he won't tell us which schools have been consulted. I think we sent
I
about
don't get that at all.
6 emails to them with no reply. We've phoned them about 2 or 3 times a week for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah,
and I'm now looking up. It's not freedom of information request, but an ICO data request, and it just seems a bit silly that they won't tell us. But maybe, like you said, it'll put a bit of pressure on them.
Yeah, I think it focuses their minds to it's a shame that you have to go through that avenue to get that information. But again, it would have to, you know, the consults would have to be part of the evidence for the appeal anyway. Or you could ask for them to be included.
Okay, I'll put it in the appeal, I guess.
Thanks, James. Thanks for coming on. So somebody here has said, my son had an assessment done during COVID. It was online. Would it be worth requesting an in-person assessment? I think from that, I would suggest is if there's going to be benefit from having an in-person assessment done, and you think it's going to change the outcome of what you're trying to achieve within the HCP, you know, you need to go with your gut on that one.
Yeah. Well, that one's come up quite a few times through our questions with SENDIASS.
Trust yourself. The more information, more knowledge is power.
Yeah, definitely.
A parent has come on to say you have the right to see all consultation reports. There should be no reason that you are not allowed to see them. And it helps you to make a decision whether it's worth appealing or not. Another parent also, if all local schools say they have no placements available, where do you stand in getting somewhere different? Can you be put on a waiting list for a specialist provision?
There are waiting lists, I believe. Yeah. But again, it depends how long that waiting list is going to be. But
Thank you.
Yeah.
If our chosen school cannot be offered for this year, reception entry, would the EHCP still stand if you deaccelerate? Would nursery have to fulfill her needs, or would finding a SEND nursery be more appropriate?
You can decelerate. That would be your decision. Whether the nursery would provide everything that was on the plan, it would be difficult. I don't know if that would be possible. If there's
that's a conversation with the nursery, whether if they can. Definitely, if they can actually fulfill the HCP, you want them to be in the place where they're going to meet that and not just give it 50%. That's the conversation and a collaborative conversation you need to have with the provision on that one. Definitely. If I was to think that's it. We've got no further questions. Is there anybody else who would like to come on and speak? If not, I will stop recording. Thank you so much, Tim.